Dr. Elaine Carter brushed a strand of brown hair from her face as she hiked through the dense forest. The morning air was cool against her skin. She checked her watch. It was just past 7, and she had been walking for nearly an hour. As the lead scientist for the government's biology research team, Elaine was used to early mornings in remote places. Today she was collecting plant samples in the quiet woods of West Virginia. Her radio crackled. "Dr. Carter, do you copy?" The voice belonged to Steve Baker, her assistant back at the base camp. Elaine grabbed the radio from her belt. "I copy." "What's up, Steve? You need to return to camp right away. Something crashed about 2 miles east of your position. The higher-ups are calling it a meteor, but the radar readings look strange. They want you to check it out." Elaine frowned. Meteors weren't exactly her area of expertise. She studied plants and animals, not space rocks. Still, orders were orders. "On my way back," she replied. When she arrived at the camp, a helicopter was waiting. Greg Nichols, the pilot, gave her a quick nod as she climbed aboard. "Whatever crashed is giving off weird energy readings," he shouted over the roar of the engine. "They think it might be radioactive, so we've got protective gear for you." Elaine's heart beat faster as she put on the protective suit. This was definitely not a normal day of plant collecting. The helicopter landed in a small clearing. Through the trees, Elaine could see smoke rising. She stepped out with her equipment bag and followed Greg through the forest. The smell hit her first, a strange mix of burning metal and something sweet, like flowers and electricity. "There," Greg pointed. Through a gap in the trees, Elaine saw it. This was no meteor dot half buried in the earth, was a metal object about the size of a small car. Its surface gleamed with an unusual blue-silver color. Parts of it were still smoking, but it was clearly a craft of some kind, a spacecraft. "Stay back," she told Greg, her voice barely a whisper. "Radio base and tell them what we found. Tell them we need a containment team." Elaine approached the craft slowly. One side had a tear in it, revealing a dark interior. As she got closer, she noticed strange symbols etched into the metal. They looked like no language she had ever seen. A sound came from inside the craft, a soft, musical tone that rose and fell like someone humming a sad song. Elaine froze. Something was alive in there, not against all her training and better judgment. She moved closer to the opening. "Hello," she called softly. "Is anyone hurt? I'm here to help." The humming stopped. Then, a blue light flickered from within the darkness. Elaine held her breath as a figure appeared at the torn opening of the craft dot. It was about her height, but thinner. Its skin was a pale blue that seemed to shimmer in the morning light. The face was almost human, with 2 large eyes that were deep, purple, like the night sky filled with stars. It had no visible nose, just 2 small slits, and its mouth was a thin line. The being was hurt. A dark purple liquid blood seeped from wounds on its chest and arm. But the alien wasn't looking at its own injuries. Instead, it was focused on something it held carefully against its body. Elaine's scientific mind raced to catalog everything she was seeing, but her human heart skipped a beat when she realized what the alien was holding. It was a child, a baby, small and delicate, with the same blue skin but lighter, almost glowing. Where a human baby would have hair, this one had thin, wispy tendrils that moved gently like underwater plants. The alien mother, Elaine, was certain now it was a mother, took a shaky step forward, her large eyes locked with Elaine's. In that moment, something passed between them that went beyond language or species. It was the universal look of a parent desperate to save their child. The alien spoke. The sounds were like music, rising and falling in a pattern that Elaine couldn't understand, but somehow felt familiar. The mother extended her arms, offering the child to Elaine. I don't understand," Elaine said, her voice shaking. The alien. Mother touched her own chest, leaving a purple smear of blood. Then she touched the baby and finally pointed to Elaine. She repeated the musical sounds, but this time, one word seemed clearer than the others. It sounded almost like please. Elaine stepped forward and carefully took the baby. It was lighter than she expected and warm. The baby's eyes opened the same purple as its mother's, but brighter. Full of stars. The mother sagged with relief or pain. Elaine couldn't tell which. She pulled something from around her neck, a small crystal that glowed with an inner light. She pressed it into Elaine's free hand, closing Elaine's fingers around it. The crystal felt warm and seemed to pulse slightly, like a tiny heartbeat. Alien spoke again, longer this time, her musical voice growing weaker. She reached out one last time to touch her child's face. Elaine heard shouts and the sound of vehicles approaching. The containment team was arriving. The alien heard them too and looked fearfully at the forest behind Elaine. They won't hurt you, Elaine promised, though she wasn't sure if that was true. We'll get you help, both of you. The alien mother shook her head slowly. She pointed to her child in Elaine's arms, then to Elaine herself, and finally up at the sky. With trembling fingers, she touched the crystal in Elaine's hand. Understanding dawned on Elaine. The mother wasn't expecting to survive. She was entrusting her child to Elaine. I'll protect your baby, Elaine whispered, tears filling her eyes. I promise. The alien's face changed then, in what Elaine could only interpret as a smile. She said something else, just a few musical notes, before collapsing to her knees. Elaine rushed forward, still holding the baby. No, hold on. Help is coming. The mother looked up one last time, her star-filled eyes fixed on her child. Then, as the sounds of humans crashing through the forest grew louder, the light in those amazing eyes dimmed and went out. That was how the containment team found Dr. Elaine Carter kneeling beside the body of an alien mother, cradling a living alien child, with tears streaming down her face and a glowing crystal clutched in her hand. And that was how Elaine's life changed forever. Greg was the first to reach her. Dr. Carter, are you hurt? What is that ... thing? Elaine stood up slowly, holding the baby close. Not a thing, Greg. A child. An orphan now. Her voice broke on the last word. And I just promised her mother I'd keep her safe. The baby made a soft, musical sound, so like its mother's voice. The crystal in Elaine's hand pulsed brighter in response. The containment team surrounded them, their faces hidden behind protective masks. Men in military uniforms appeared from the trees, guns raised. Elaine stood her ground. This child is under my protection, she said firmly, surprising herself with her own conviction. And I need a medical team, now. As the soldiers approached, cautiously, Elaine looked down at the alien child in her arms. The baby's purple eyes seemed to hold entire galaxies. In that moment, Elaine understood that saving this child would be the most important thing she would ever do. What she didn't yet understand was how much that promise would cost her, or how it would change not just her life, but the future of two worlds. 3 days had passed since the crash. The military had set up a secure area around the site, with large white tents and armed guards at every entrance. The alien spacecraft was now covered by a special dome to protect it from the elements and from curious eyes. Elaine sat beside a clear incubator where the alien baby rested. The small being's chest rose and fell with steady breaths. Its skin still held that beautiful blue shimmer, but Elaine thought it looked paler than before. The wispy tendrils on its head moved gently, as if blown by a breeze only the child could feel. How is our little visitor doing today? Dr. Paul Moore asked as he entered the medical tent. Paul was a pediatrician who had been flown in by the government. Though he had never treated an alien before, he was the best they had. "The same," Elaine said, not taking her eyes off the baby. "Breathing is steady, but I think the skin color is fading." Paul checked the monitors attached to the incubator. "Heartbeat is stable, but you're right about the color. Whatever this little one needs, we might not be providing it." Elaine touched the crystal that hung from a chain around her neck. It still glowed faintly and seemed to pulse in time with the baby's heartbeat. She hadn't told anyone everything about her encounter with the mother. Some things felt too personal, too important to share with the military scientists who now swarmed the site. The tent flap opened again, and Colonel Frank Ward stepped in. His face was stern as always, his uniform perfectly pressed, despite the forest heat. "Dr. Carter, we need to talk," he said. "Alone." Elaine didn't move. "Whatever you need to say, you can say it here." The colonel's jaw tightened. "Very well. The higher-ups have decided that the alien child should be moved to a more secure facility for proper study." "Study?" Elaine stood up quickly. "This is a baby, not a lab specimen. It's an unknown extraterrestrial life form," Colonel Ward said coldly. "We have no idea what it's capable of, or why it was sent here." "It wasn't sent here," Elaine said. "The ship crashed. The mother died saving her child. That's your interpretation. We have no way of knowing the alien's intentions." Paul stepped between them. "Colonel, moving the child now could be dangerous. We don't fully understand its biology or needs. Any change in environment might cause harm." The colonel wasn't moved. "Transport arrives tomorrow morning. That's final." He turned and left the tent. Elaine's hands shook with anger. She looked down at the baby, who seemed to be watching her with those incredible purple eyes. "I won't let them take you," she whispered. "I made a promise." Later that evening, as the sun set over the trees, Elaine met with Paul and Dr. Linda Kelly, a xenobiologist who had arrived that morning. They gathered in the small lab tent adjacent to the medical area. "The mother gave you this crystal?" Linda asked, examining the glowing stone without touching it. Elaine nodded. "Right before she died. I think it's important somehow. It seems to respond to the baby." "It definitely contains some kind of energy," Linda said. "Our instruments can detect, but they can't identify what kind of energy it is." Paul looked troubled. "The baby is getting weaker. If the colonel moves it tomorrow, I'm afraid it won't survive the trip." "Then we need to understand what it needs now," Elaine said firmly. She took the crystal from around her neck. "Every time I bring this close to the baby, it glows brighter. Watch." She walked back to the medical tent, with Paul and Linda following. The guards nodded as they passed. Inside, Elaine approached the incubator and held the crystal near the clear wall. As she had said, the crystal's light grew stronger. The baby's tendrils moved more actively, as if reaching for the light. "Amazing," Linda whispered. "It's responding." Elaine pressed the crystal against the incubator wall. To everyone's surprise, the crystal's light seemed to pass through the barrier, creating a soft glow around the baby. The child made a musical sound, similar to its mother's voice. The monitors began to beep. Paul rushed to check them. Heart rate is increasing, but in a good way. Blood oxygen levels are improving. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Elaine felt tears in her eyes. The mother knew. She knew her baby would need this. For an hour, Elaine kept the crystal pressed against the incubator. The baby's color improved, the blue becoming deeper and more vibrant. The tendrils on its head moved with more energy, and its eyes seemed brighter. "We need to document this," Linda said excitedly. "This could be the first recorded case of energy transference between an alien artifact and—" "No," Elaine cut her off. "If we document this, the military will take the crystal. They'll experiment on it and the baby, Paul looked concerned. Elaine, we can't hide this. The colonel will be back in the morning. Then we need a plan, Elaine said. She looked at the baby, who seemed to be watching her with those star-filled eyes. I made a promise to protect this child, and I intend to keep it. That night, while most of the camp slept, Elaine, Paul, and Linda worked secretly. They modified a portable incubator that could be carried like a backpack. They gathered medical supplies and studied the data they had collected on the babies. Biology. The crystal is the key, Linda said as they worked. It's providing something the baby needs to survive. Energy, maybe, or some element we don't have on Earth. But why would the mother give it to me? Elaine wondered. Why trust a complete stranger from another species? Paul smiled sadly. Because that's what parents do when they have no other choice. They find the best option available to save their child. As dawn approached, they heard vehicles arriving. Elaine looked out of the tent to see 3 black SUVs and a large truck with a covered back. Men in suits stepped out, along with Colonel Ward. They're early, she whispered. Linda looked frightened. What do we do now? Elaine thought quickly. Paul, go talk to the colonel. Stall him. Linda, help me get the baby ready. As Paul left, Elaine and Linda carefully disconnected the monitors from the alien child. The baby made soft musical sounds, but didn't seem distressed. Elaine placed the crystal in the special holder they had created inside the portable incubator. It glowed steadily, casting the baby in a gentle light. Dr. Carter! Colonel Ward's voice boomed from outside. I know what you're planning. Come out now. Elaine lifted the baby gently and placed it in the portable incubator. The child's eyes met hers, and she felt a strange connection, as if the baby understood what was happening. I promised your mother, Elaine whispered, and I keep my promises. Linda looked at her with wide eyes. What are you going to do? Elaine secured the portable incubator to her back. I'm going to run. The old forest ranger cabin is 3 miles west. My friend Amber lives there. She'll help us. They'll catch you, Linda said. Maybe, but I have to try. Elaine took a deep breath. Are you with me? Linda hesitated only a moment before nodding. I'll create a distraction. The east side of the camp has fewer guards. The sounds of men entering the medical tent next door spurred them into action. As Linda rushed out the front of the lab tent, shouting about a fire in the equipment area, Elaine slipped out the back, the precious alien child secured safely against her back as she disappeared into the trees. The crystal pulsed warmly against her spine. Somehow, she felt the baby was trying to tell her something important. But understanding would have to wait. For now, they needed to run. The rain fell softly through the trees as Elaine ran. Her lungs burned and her legs ached, but she didn't stop. The portable incubator on her back felt heavier with each step, but the gentle warmth from the crystal inside gave her strength to keep moving. Behind her, she could hear shouts and the barking of dogs. The military wasn't giving up easily. They wanted the alien child, and they would hunt Elaine down to get it. Just a little farther, she whispered, though she wasn't sure if she was talking to herself or to the baby. The old ranger cabin was hidden deep in the woods, away from hiking trails and roads. If she could reach it, it might have a chance. The baby made a soft musical sound from inside the incubator. Elaine had started thinking of the child as Nova in her mind, though she hadn't said the name out loud yet. It seemed to fit the little being with eyes full of stars. A fallen tree blocked Elaine's path. As she climbed over it, her foot slipped on the wet bark. She fell hard, landing on her side to protect the incubator. Pain shot through her ankle, and she bit her lip to keep from crying out. I can do this, she told herself, forcing her body up again. She tested her weight on the injured ankle. It hurt, but it would hold. She had to keep going. After what seemed like hours, Elaine spotted the cabin through the trees. Smoke rose from the chimney, which meant Amber was home. Elaine had met Amber Wells during her first research trip to these woods 5 years ago. The former park ranger now lived alone in the cabin, preferring the company of trees and wildlife to people. Elaine limped to the door and knocked quickly. "Amber, it's Elaine. Please, I need help." The door opened, and Amber stood there, her gray hair pulled back in a braid, her weathered face concerned. "Elaine? What on earth?" Her eyes widened at the sight of the strange incubator. "Get in here." Quick. Once inside, Elaine carefully removed the incubator and placed it on the kitchen table. Her hands shook as she opened it to check on Nova. The baby's blue skin still shimmered, and those amazing purple eyes blinked up at her. "What is that?" Amber asked, her voice hushed with wonder. "It's a long story," Elaine said, sinking into a chair. "But the short version is that this baby is from another world, and some very powerful people want to take it away and study it like a lab rat. I couldn't let that happen." To Elaine's surprise, Amber didn't look shocked. She simply nodded and went to the window to peek through the curtains. "Those would be the powerful people, I'm guessing," she said, pointing to lights moving through the distant trees. "Military?" "Yes, they'll be here soon." Elaine felt tears of frustration in her eyes. "I thought we'd have more time." Amber's face hardened with determination. "Then we need to move fast. There's an old mining tunnel behind the cabin. It comes out near the river, about 2 miles from here. My truck is parked at the end of it." Hope flickered in Elaine's chest. "You'd help us?" Amber smiled. "I've never much cared for people who think they can own everything they find." She looked at Nova with gentle eyes. "Besides that little one, looks like it needs a friend, not a cage." They worked quickly, gathering supplies. Amber packed food and water while Elaine tended to Nova. The crystal glowed steadily, but Elaine noticed it was slightly dimmer than before. "I think the crystal is running out of whatever energy it provides," she told Amber. "And I don't know how to recharge it." Amber frowned. "Have you tried just asking?" "Asking who? Nova? The crystal?" "Both, maybe," Amber shrugged. "You said this baby is from another world. Maybe it knows more than we think." It seemed silly, but Elaine had no better ideas. She lifted Nova carefully from the incubator, cradling the small blue being in her arms. The crystal she placed in Nova's tiny hands. "Nova," she said softly, using the name for the first time, "we need help. The crystal is getting weaker." "Do you know how to make it strong again?" Nova's purple eyes seemed to focus on Elaine's face. The baby made a series of musical sounds, and the tendrils on its head moved in a pattern that almost seemed deliberate. Then, to Elaine's amazement, Nova placed the crystal against Elaine's chest, right over her heart. The crystal flared with sudden brightness, its light pulsing in time with Elaine's heartbeat. "It's drawing energy from you," Amber whispered. "From your life force, maybe." Elaine felt a strange tingling where the crystal touched her skin, but it wasn't painful. If anything, she felt more connected to Nova than ever before. "I think you're right. It's creating a bond between us." The sound of dogs barking grew louder. Amber peeked out the window again. "They're getting close. We need to go now." Elaine placed Nova back in the incubator, but this time she left the top open so she could keep one hand on the baby, maintaining the connection with the crystal. With her other hand, she picked up the bag of supplies Amber had prepared. "The tunnel entrance is hidden behind the woodshed," Amber said, leading the way out the back door. "It's dark in there, so take this flashlight." They reached the woodshed just as voices called out from the front of the cabin. Men shouting orders, dogs sniffing at the ground. Amber pulled aside a false wall of stacked wood, revealing a narrow tunnel entrance. This was used during Prohibition to move moonshine. It's old but safe. Elaine turned to her friend. Thank you. I don't know how to repay you. Amber smiled. Just keep that little one safe, and someday tell me how this all turns out. She looked toward the cabin. I'll stall them as long as I can. As Elaine ducked into the tunnel, Nova made a soft musical sound that somehow felt like goodbye. Amber waved once, then closed the false wall behind them. The tunnel was narrow and damp. Elaine moved as quickly as she could, the flashlight beam bobbing ahead of her. Nova seemed calm, watching the light with curious eyes. You're being very brave, Elaine told the baby. Your mother would be proud. At the thought of Nova's mother, Elaine felt a wave of sadness. What had the alien mother hoped for when she gave her child to a stranger? Did she know the danger they would face? The crystal pulsed against Elaine's hand, and suddenly her mind filled with images. A beautiful world with purple skies and floating cities. A people with blue skin and musical voices. And danger, a great danger that threatened them all. Elaine gasped and stopped walking. The images faded, but the feeling remained. Was that from you? She asked Nova. Are you showing me your home? Nova's tendrils moved in that deliberate pattern again, and the baby made a sound that seemed almost like yes in its musical language. You're telepathic, Elaine whispered in awe. The crystal helps you communicate. This changed everything. Nova wasn't just a helpless baby. It was trying to tell Elaine something important. Something about why its mother had come to Earth. Before she could process this revelation, Elaine heard a noise from the tunnel behind them, voices echoing off the stone walls. The military had found the tunnel entrance. We need to hurry, she told Nova, picking up her pace. Her ankle throbbed with each step, but she ignored the pain. They were so close to escape. Finally, Elaine saw light ahead. The tunnel exit. She emerged into the fading daylight beside a rushing river. Just as Amber had promised, an old pickup truck was parked nearby, keys hidden under the seat. As Elaine secured Nova in the passenger seat, the crystal flared brightly again. More images filled her mind, a map showing her where to go next. Okay, Elaine said, starting the truck. I trust you. She pulled onto the dirt road just as the first soldiers emerged from the tunnel. In the rearview mirror, she saw them pointing, shouting into radios. But Elaine and Nova were already gone, driving toward whatever future awaited them, guided by a crystal, a promise, and the final gift of an alien mother to her child. 3 weeks had passed since Elaine and Nova escaped through the mining tunnel. They now lived in a small cabin deep in the mountains of Wyoming. The place belonged to Elaine's uncle, who had passed away 2 years ago. No one knew about it except Elaine, which made it the perfect hiding place. Elaine sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Nova sat in her lap, those star-filled purple eyes taking in everything. The baby had grown quickly in the past weeks. Now Nova looked more like a toddler than an infant. The blue skin still shimmered in the light, and the tendrils on Nova's head had grown longer, moving like gentle waves in water. Beautiful, isn't it? Elaine said softly. She had taken to talking to Nova all the time, even though she wasn't sure how much the child understood. The sky on your world is purple, not blue. I saw it in the images you showed me. Nova made a musical sound and touched the crystal that hung around Elaine's neck. Immediately, Elaine's mind filled with images of Nova's homeworld, the twin, moons hanging in the purple sky, the floating cities made of crystal-like material, and the blue-skinned people with their musical language. These mental connections were happening more often now. At first, Nova could only share simple images and feelings. But as the days passed, the connections became clearer and more complex. Now Nova could show Elaine entire scenes, memories that seemed to come from the mother. Elaine had learned many things about Nova's people. They called themselves the Lyra. They were peaceful explorers who had been watching Earth for many years. They had a special ability to connect with other beings through their minds. Using crystals like the one Nova's mother had given Elaine to bridge the gap between different species. But the most important thing Elaine had learned was why Nova's mother had come to Earth. The Lyra homeworld was dying. Their sun was becoming unstable, sending out bursts of radiation that were slowly poisoning their planet. Nova's mother had been part of a desperate mission to find new homes for their children. "Your mother was very brave," Elaine told Nova, gently stroking the child's tendrils. She knew she was already sick from the radiation. She knew she wouldn't survive long after reaching Earth, but she came anyway to save you. Nova touched Elaine's face with small blue fingers. Another image appeared in Elaine's mind. Nova's mother, looking at Elaine in the forest that first day. The image was filled with hope and trust. "She chose me," Elaine whispered, tears filling her eyes. "Out of everyone on this planet, she chose me to care for you. But why?" Nova couldn't answer that question. Not yet, anyway. The baby's ability to communicate was growing, but still limited. The sound of a car engine broke the peaceful evening silence. Elaine froze. No one should be driving up here. The cabin was miles from the nearest road. Hidden by trees and mountains, she quickly gathered Nova in her arms and went inside, locking the door behind them. From the window, she watched as a single car came into view. It was a plain blue sedan, nothing like the black SUVs the military used. Still, Elaine wasn't taking any chances. She grabbed the emergency bag she kept packed by the door. It contained food, water, clothes, and medical supplies for both her and Nova. "We might have to run again," she whispered to Nova. "Are you ready?" Nova made a soft musical sound that Elaine had come to recognize as agreement. The child's trust in her never wavered. The car stopped in front of the cabin. A single person got out, a woman with short brown hair wearing jeans and a simple jacket. It took Elaine a moment to recognize her. "Linda?" She gasped. It was Dr. Linda Kelly, the xenobiologist who had helped them escape from the military camp. But how had she found them? And why was she here? Was it a trap? Linda looked around nervously, then called out, "Elaine?" "It's me, Linda. I'm alone, I promise. I need to talk to you." "It's important." Elaine hesitated. She trusted Linda, but the risk was too great. She stayed hidden, watching Linda side and returned to her car. She took out a small device and placed it on the ground. Then she backed away, hands raised. "I found the tracker they put on Nova at the camp," Linda called out. "That's how they've been following you. I removed the signal from their system, but the device itself is still active. I brought a scanner so you can check if there are any more. Please, Elaine. I'm trying to help." Elaine felt a chill run through her body. A tracker? They had been following her all this time? Nova touched the crystal, and Elaine felt a wave of trust flow through their connection. The baby seemed to believe. Linda was telling the truth. After a long moment, Elaine opened the door. "Come in," she said cautiously, "but just you. And leave your phone in the car." Linda did as she was asked. When she entered the cabin, her eyes immediately went to Nova. "My God," she whispered, "the baby has grown so much." "Nova," Elaine corrected her. "The baby's name is Nova." Linda smiled. "Nova. It fits." She placed her scanner on the table. "You need to check for trackers. The military has been searching everywhere for you two. They've classified Nova as a potential threat to national security." Elaine held Nova protectively. "Nova is not a threat. The Lyra are peaceful. Linda's eyes widened. The Lyra? You know what they're called? How? Elaine touched the crystal around her neck. Nova can communicate through this, not with words, but with images and feelings. I've learned about their world, their people. That's amazing, Linda said. And it's exactly why you need to be careful. The military doesn't understand what they're dealing with, and they're afraid. Fear makes people dangerous. She helped Elaine use the scanner to check both Nova and the portable incubator. They found a tiny tracker embedded in the lining of the incubator, so small Elaine would never have noticed it. They'll know I removed the signal from their system eventually, Linda said, as Elaine destroyed the tracker. You need to move again, somewhere they won't think to look. We can't keep running forever, Elaine said, watching Nova play with the crystal. Sooner or later, they'll find us. Linda sat down at the kitchen table. There might be another option. She hesitated, then continued. I've been in contact with a group of scientists who work independently from the government. They believe in peaceful contact with extraterrestrial life. They have a facility in New Mexico, completely off the grid. They could help protect Nova and maybe learn from what you've discovered about the Lyra. Elaine wasn't sure. How do I know I can trust them? You don't, Linda admitted. But you can't do this alone forever, Elaine. Nova is going to keep growing, keep changing. You'll need help. As if understanding the conversation, Nova climbed into Elaine's lap and touched the crystal again. This time, the image in Elaine's mind was different. It showed many Lyra children, all being sent away from their dying world in small ships, each heading to a different destination. There are more, Elaine gasped. More Lyra children were sent to Earth. Linda leaned forward, her face intense. Are you sure? Nova sent another image, a map of stars with Earth marked by a glowing point. 6 other points glowed around it, each representing a ship like the one that had carried Nova. 6 more, Elaine said. 6 more Lyra children, somewhere on Earth. And if the military finds them first, ... She didn't need to finish the thought. If Colonel Ward and his people found the other children, they would study them like lab specimens. They would never understand the gift the Lyra had given them, a chance to help a dying race, to save their children. We need to find them first, Elaine said firmly. All of them, Linda nodded. Then you definitely need help. More than I can give alone. Elaine looked down at Nova. The child's purple eyes seemed to hold the light of distant stars, the hope of an entire civilization. What do you think, Nova? Should we trust Linda and her friends? Nova's tendrils moved in that deliberate pattern that Elaine now recognized as yes. The crystal glowed warmly against Elaine's skin. Okay, Elaine decided. We'll go to New Mexico. But first, there's something I need to show you, Linda. Something Nova has been trying to tell me. She took Linda's hand and placed it on the crystal alongside her own and Nova's. The crystal flared with bright light, and Linda gasped as her mind filled with images of the Lyra world and the urgent message. Nova's mother had traveled across the stars to deliver. Now do you understand? Elaine asked softly. This isn't just about saving one child. It's about saving 2 worlds. The New Mexico desert stretched out under a sky filled with more stars than Elaine had ever seen. 6 months had passed since she and Nova had come to the hidden research facility. It was built underground, beneath what looked like an ordinary ranch house. The scientists who lived and worked there called themselves the Harmony Group. Elaine stood on the roof of the ranch house, watching the night sky. Nova stood beside her, no longer looking like a toddler, but more like a child about 6 years old. The growth rate of the Lyra was much faster than humans, Linda had explained. They reached physical maturity in just a few years, though their mental development took longer. Do you miss your home? Elaine asked softly, looking down at Nova. Nova's musical voice had developed enough to form simple English words, though the sound was still like singing rather than speaking. Sometimes, Nova said, but I see it in dreams, and I have you. Elaine smiled and took Nova's small blue hand in hers. The bond between them had grown stronger every day. Through the crystal, they could now share not just images and feelings, but complex thoughts. Elaine had learned so much about the Lyra civilization, their art, their science, their belief that all life in the universe was connected. The door to the roof opened, and Linda stepped out. Her face looked tired but excited. They found another. One, she said, in Australia. A farmer discovered the ship 2 days ago. Our people are already on their way. Elaine felt her heart race. Is the child alive? What about the parent? Linda's expression softened. The child is alive. The parent ... didn't make it. Just like with Nova. Nova's tendrils moved in a pattern that Elaine now recognized as sadness. My kind, Nova said softly. Like me. Yes, Linda nodded. Like you. And we'll bring them here, where they'll be safe. This would be the third Lyra child they had found. The first had been discovered in Russia 2 months ago. Getting the child safely to New Mexico had been difficult and dangerous, but they had managed it with help from scientists there who believed in the Harmony Group's mission. The Russian child, who had chosen the name Luna, was younger than Nova, but already showing the same telepathic abilities. The 2 Lyra children had formed an immediate bond. When they touched the crystal together, the mental connection was so powerful that every human in the room could feel it too. That's 3 found, 4 still out there, Elaine said, looking back at the stars. I hope we find them all before ... She didn't need to finish. They all knew the military was still searching. Colonel Ward had been removed from the operation after his heavy-handed approach had drawn too much attention, but the government's interest had not faded. If anything, it had grown stronger as reports of strange lights in the sky increased around the world. Dr. Sam wants to see you both, Linda said, changing the subject. He's made progress with the communication device. Dr. Sam Lee was the technical genius of the Harmony Group. For months, he had been working to create a device that could amplify the crystal's power, allowing the Lyra children to send a message back to their homeworld. If they could let the Lyra know that their children were safe on Earth, perhaps more could be saved before their sun destroyed their planet in the underground lab. Dr. Sam sat, surrounded by equipment. His black hair stood up in all directions, and his glasses were perched on top of his head. He looked up as they entered, his face breaking into a wide smile. Perfect timing. He said excitedly, I think we've got it working. Nova, would you like to try? Nova nodded eagerly. The child had grown attached to Dr. Sam, fascinated by his inventions and endless questions about Lyra technology. The device looked simple, a metal disc with a space in the center where the crystal could be placed. Wires connected it to a larger machine that hummed softly. The crystal produces a specific frequency when Nova uses it to communicate, Dr. Sam explained. This device should amplify that frequency and direct it like a beam, straight to the coordinates Nova showed us for the Lyra homeworld. Elaine felt a flutter of nervousness. Is it safe? For Nova, I mean. Completely safe, Dr. Sam assured her. The crystal is doing all the work. We're just making it louder, essentially. Nova looked up at Elaine. I want to try, the child said. I want to tell my people we are here. Elaine nodded. Okay, but I'll be right here with you. Nova removed the crystal from around Elaine's neck and placed it in the center of the disc. The moment it touched the metal, the crystal glowed brighter than Elaine had ever seen it. Nova placed both small blue hands on the crystal and closed. Those star-filled purple eyes. The room fell silent. The only sound was the soft hum of the machine. Then, slowly, The crystal's light began to pulse, sending waves of color through the room. Blue, purple, green, colors Elaine had no names. 4. Nova's face was peaceful, concentrated. The tendrils on the child's head moved in complex patterns, almost like a dance. Through their bond, Elaine could feel echoes of the message Nova was sending, images of Earth, of the Harmony Group, of the Lyra children who had been found. Most of all, a feeling of safety, of welcome. Minutes passed. The lights from the crystal grew brighter, filling the room completely. Then suddenly, something new happened. The crystal's light formed a shape in the air above them, a hologram of a Lyra adult, tall and elegant, with the same blue skin and tendrils as Nova. The figure looked around the room, eyes widening at the sight of Nova. "They hear us, Nova," whispered, voice filled with wonder. "They hear us." The holographic figure spoke in the musical language of the Lyra. Though Elaine couldn't understand the words, she felt their meaning through her bond with Nova: relief, gratitude, hope. Doctor Sam was frantically taking readings, his face alight with excitement. "This is incredible. We've established actual contact." The hologram spoke again, longer this time. Nova listened carefully, then turned to Elaine, eyes wide. "More ships coming," the child said. "Many more. With adults, too, they say." Nova paused, searching for the right words. "They say my mother was right. Earth is the place where their children can live, where our peoples can join." Elaine felt tears in her eyes. "When?" she asked. "When are they coming?" Nova relayed the question. The hologram responded, gesturing to the stars. "1 Earth year." Nova translated, "They come in 1 year." As the hologram faded and the crystal's light dimmed, Elaine pulled Nova into a tight hug. She thought about that first day in the forest when an alien mother had placed her child in Elaine's arms. That mother had known she was dying, known she would never see her child grow up. Yet she had trusted Elaine, a complete stranger from another world, with the most precious things she had. "What she did next broke me," Elaine had told Linda once, trying to explain the power of that moment. She smiled at me. She was dying, giving up her child forever, and she smiled because she knew her baby would be safe. Now, holding Nova in her arms while plans for a new future between their peoples began to form, Elaine finally understood the full meaning of that smile. It wasn't just resignation or relief. It was hope. Hope that from one mother's sacrifice, 2 worlds might find a way to save each other. "Your mother would be so proud," Elaine whispered to Nova. "So very proud." Nova looked up at her with those eyes full of stars. "I have 2 mothers," the child said simply. "One gave me life. One taught me to live. Both gave me love." As the scientists around them celebrated the successful contact, Elaine and Nova stood together, hands linked, the crystal glowing softly. Between them, a bridge between worlds, between species, between hearts. And somewhere in the vast universe, Elaine knew, Nova's birth mother was smiling.